Mom, I think I'm a male attention addict. Flowers at my door, love letters, and I was just realizing like I was addicted to male attention. Hey.
How does it feel to be single?
I don't even know. I really don't know how it feels to be single because this is really only the feeling I've had for most of my life.
For those of you that don't know Riley, I'm sorry. She's the friend that everyone wishes they had. Really, she's not only spunky and has amazing hair, she's also full of some truth and some wisdom, and she gonna spit some fire today. This is Girl Talk. A lot of you said on Instagram, so if you're not following me, it's at Tori Masters, and if you're not following Riley, it's
At Riley Soul.
hey. But we love your DMs and we love hearing your stories, and we love that you even like trust us with your stories. This is part 2 of the Singleness series. Riley has an amazing blog,
RileySoul.com. And the journals are titled Journal of a 24-Year-Old Virgin.
Hey.
I talk about like sex and purity and singleness and all those subjects that we commonly avoid.
Yeah, but in a very vulnerable way. I'm just over surface conversations. We like talk about the real like heart issues.
Yeah.
But do it in a light way that's relatable and authentic. I really want to talk about temporary distractions versus
Long-term rewards.
long-term rewards, long-term satisfaction. While we wait, how to find contentment inside of that waiting and the treasures inside of it. And Riley has found that.
So I'm from New Zealand. I like grew up on this farm. I moved to California, Los Angeles, a year and a half ago. And when I moved here, I mean, I didn't know a single person in the entire state. So I kind of went to this place where I'm like, I'm so lonely. And then you get asked out on dates, and I was just like, okay, why don't I just go on these dates? And I was realizing, like, I was going 1 week, I went on 5 dates in 1 week, and I was like, oh girl. But the thing was, is like, I was relying on these great men to feed my satisfaction of like trying to get love, because my love language is words. And so like for me, I was being my tank, my emotional tank was constantly being filled up by these men that I was dating and hanging out. And these are sons of God. And I'm like relying on them. Like, I was like honestly acting like, I'm gonna be vulnerable with you guys. I was acting like a kid in a play pit with like her toys. And when she didn't want that toy, she just throw it out. But that is not how to treat men. And I was realizing it was because I think the goal of singleness is to become a self-sustainable vessel of love. And so like instead I was relying on these men to feed my tank.
And too, I feel like so often we bash men for treating women wrong, and we don't take any credit for when we don't treat men right.
Oh yeah. I just wish we kind of like, you know, in that season I was realizing these are hearts. And I was like treating a heart not the way a heart should be treated. Like our hearts are tender and beautiful and powerful. I have on my wall, it's written, hold it like a butterfly. Because our hearts are like butterflies. Like you can't squish it and try to control it and like, I want all this for me. But at the same time, you gotta like hold it lightly and just like know that like God, either that butterfly is gonna rest in your hand or it's gonna leave. But like hearts are like butterflies. They're beautiful and they're precious, but that was not how I was treating it. And so God took me through this whole season of was just like, he was like, Nat Riley, and he kind of just like put the stop sign on, like it was just like red lights everywhere, and God was like, no, like can you come in with me and find that sweet place of just like me and you. And like in the Bible it talks about like God is a jealous God because we're his daughters and we're his sons, and he just wants to hang out with us. Allowing God to do that deep and slow work in me so that he can prepare me for what is to come and for who is to come.
And it also says we are the bride of Christ until we are someone else's bride. How often do we not treat God like we're in a relationship with him? It's so one-sided. Like, God, I want this, I want that. Where's that man that you dated for me? Like, I'd love for him to just show up. And God's like, you're not ready because you don't even know how to have a relationship with me yet. I think for me, I had to learn how to be in relationship with God before I learned how to be a good spouse to my husband. Because if I were to just walk around the house would chat and be like, hey, can you like show up here, and I'm gonna need this, and like I need that, and I never asked him how he was doing or actually like did life with him, we'd have a very unhealthy relationship.
Yeah, with God, it's not one way. And like I went through this whole process, like it was probably about 3 years ago, and it's just this one little like,
she says like golden nugget, like nugget.
That really changed my mindset when it comes to singleness. And that was because I was writing in my journal, and it was about like, I can't wait for the one.
Oh, till Prince Charming comes.
Being just such a girl, like romantic.
Okay.
And then I heard God say, I am the one. And it made me realize is like, and you know this, like she's also helped me like learn this as well, and been like a reminder, is like no person can fully satisfy your soul, because that's Jesus's job.
Yeah.
And Jesus is the one. Like, yes, we find someone to do life with, and they make our life greater and fun, like Tori and Chad in their marriage, but at the same time, like God really is the person that really should be the one for you. Yeah. And once you realize that, I feel like there's so much freedom when it comes to dating.
You're a whole person. You're not looking for another person to complete you. Someone's gonna compliment you someday. I'm married and I'm still a complete person on my own, and I still have my own set of dreams and everything, and Chad champions those, and he walks alongside me in those, but he doesn't complete me. And I talked about it in part 1, just like, if I relied solely on Chad for my satisfaction, my joy, my happiness, I would be crazy. Like my emotions would be all over the place, because he's not built for that. Like, he's a very good husband, but he makes a really crappy God. You know, like he's not built to be God. Like he's built to be my spouse. And so I think we have to take people and relationships off of this pedestal and put them in their right place. That way we can look at them for what they are. I do want to get back to this whole like temporary distraction thing, because I think it's so prevalent in today's society to just be like, well, I'm lonely and it's free dinner, and why not?
Apply to that DM and
that late
like
night
send
text.
that cute selfie.
I'm like, girl, if he has texted you past midnight, do not respond.
I sometimes think about like that whole temporary distraction versus long-term satisfaction. Is imagine like a vineyard, and like if somebody came along and picked the grapes off too early, like the wine is gonna taste terrible. But there's something about waiting. Like that grape just waits on that vine. It like lets the nutrition come. It like stays where it's at. Like lets the vineyard, like if someone come along and water it, and then at some point the person will come along and pick it off and make that wine. But there's something about just that waiting and that sitting and that being with God that you will come to find, like your wine, like what you give to offer someone else is just so much more richer and better. But it happened through the waiting.
I was reading this in your blog the other day. You said your mom asked you, would you date you?
Yeah.
You know? I'm gonna talk about this later in a video about modesty, but do you encompass the qualities that a godly man is looking for?
The way I love to explain it is like, I don't want to fall in love outside in, I want to fall in love inside out. And like what she was saying before kind of reminded me is like, I could hear God saying like, I look more at like your spiritual clothing than I look at your physical clothing. Yeah. And that spiritual clothing is like the armor of God. And it's so important to like dress yourself with that and like care more about that. And like in the seasons of me waiting, I realized like God's not working on my body or my physical looks. God's working on my character. He's working on my patience. He's making sure I love the unlovable, making sure that I love someone without expecting nothing in return. Like he's doing so much more inside work. Like I do sometimes think God does like open heart surgery. He's like in there and he's like, all right, I'm fixing this and that.
You're not looking for like what you can get, but you're looking for what you can give. And you only get there inside of your singleness. God actually fills my cup, and so I don't need anything from you. Like I just want to be here to serve you, and it's actually a completely different way to live. How can I outserve you?
Yeah, like take my overflow.
Yeah, a crazy perspective shift versus saying I need.
And like I have this like theory on love, or like even it can be even applied to friendships. And what I believe is like before you like enter into a friendship or like a relationship, that you need to realize you're whole on your own. Like you are enough, and they should also be at that same sort of state where they're like whole and they understand their wholeness, and together 1 + 1 does not equal 2, but 1 + 1 = 3. Because when you find, like, I just see it in Tori and Chad all the time, like they make each other greater than what they were before. Like they were great humans before, but like entering into this like unity of this partnership, like Tori's just like going for it and Chad's going for it, because there's just like, when two, like imagine a science experiment, when two things come together, like when you put that Mentos into that Coke and there's like this explosion, like that's what heaven anointed relationships and friendships should be.
So many times people look at Christianity as a set of rules and regulations, and we're a slave to a certain way of living, and I'm like, no, honey, if that boy isn't gonna stay with you because you're not having sex with him, then you are a slave to physicality. There's no freedom inside of that relationship. And so the rules of Jesus, they're made in love because he wants you to live in freedom. Well, if I don't do this with that person, like, are they gonna be interested? Honey, if they're not interested because you're not doing that, they're not worth it. Like, you don't want to be with that person.
I just want to say, like, you know, being someone who is single, I know it's lonely, and I just want to acknowledge that and be like, it's okay. But like, just like what Tori was saying before, is like, just be really self-aware of like, when you are single and when it's like that Friday night and your friends are out, or like you've just gone to the small group and it seems like everyone's married except for you, like just be careful of like where you're running to, like what is feeding your soul. And like Tori was saying, like make sure it's Jesus. And I had to go through that whole season where like I was saying, I was running to guys, and then slowly, like now I like run to God. And before I felt like God was not enough. Like honestly, like I was just like, no, like you're not enough to like help me emotionally and spiritually. But like slowly over time, after like just deciding, being in that moment, all right, am I gonna go to that party or am I gonna go home and spend time with Jesus? Slowly spending more and more time saying Jesus, Jesus, and making that my decision, I saw that Jesus became like, he was enough. And like now to this day, like Jesus is more than enough. Like he is so much more. Like my cup is like overflowed and it runs, and like I give the overflow to my neighbors and my friends. And there's actually so many benefits in this singleness season. Like I have been like, you know, like last week I spontaneously booked flights to Rome. Like who did I need to ask? No one. Like go travel, go figure yourself out. Like you're this beautiful piece of art. Like do you really know every angle and every color that is in your soul? Like spend that time to get to know the art that God has created you to be, so that when you do enter into a relationship, you're like, oh, I'm this color and I'm this, and like when I respond to conflict, I do this. And like go book flights, make community, go befriend that person that sits on the street and they're lonely. Like in this loneliness, I mean, America is facing a loneliness epidemic. We need each other more than ever. I think that's one thing, is like society really encourages like, you do you, boo, like you be this independent single woman, but like how much does society really reward that?
Right.
It doesn't. Like I sometimes think that singleness is seen as like a disease. And like I've been asked, like I'm 24, and people come up to me and been like, why are you still single? I'm like, I'm 24, I'm not that old. Yeah. It's like, why do I need to be in a relationship? Like yes, I want to be one day, but like right now in this season I'm not. And yet I'm like totally like able to run this race that God has called me to be without someone else. Like I am enough, but sometimes I feel like society like throws us a different kind of perspective. But that's like so much of the Christian walk, like society saying something and you're like, no.
If we go buy a puzzle, we trust that the box is gonna have all the pieces so that we can make that puzzle. But why don't we trust God, the creator of the universe, to put all of the puzzle pieces together in our life? Why don't we just trust to keep moving forward day by day? And I got this question the other day, well, what if I'm just single forever? And I'm like, first off, you're not even promised tomorrow. So like, why don't we focus on tomorrow? You know, I think we get so caught up in like forever. And I'm like, why don't we just focus on like, what does God want you to do today? Like how can you serve today? How can you love today? How can you like follow God to the greatest degree that you can today, and stop focusing on like,
oh Lord have mercy, am I getting single forever?
And it's like, it reminds me of that scripture, like God knows your heart's desires. Like if that's so in you, you're like, I want a relationship, I want to get married, I want kids. God knows that. He sees that. He's there with your struggle and your pain. He's gonna provide it for you. But for right now, like live this moment. Like I often think the devil tries to, like, one of his best techniques is tries to make us live in the future or the past. When we miss this very moment, like I'm standing here, sitting here with Tori, talking to you. This is the very moment that I'm living in, which is the gift.
Yeah.
And like I can't miss this moment. And like you're single, but like this is a beautiful moment that you're living in right now. Don't miss this moment by hope to the future or hurt from the past. And I get it, it can be hard. Like there are people that have like maybe broken your heart, or like you don't feel like God is gonna show up, but he will. He knows your heart, he sees it, and he's gonna exceed. Like Tori, when Chad and her, like when they got together, like he exceeded all your expectations.
100%.
Like God is gonna blow your mind away. Just wait, girl. Like, oh boy, like just be patient. Like know that you're gonna get far more than you asked for.
Yeah, it's worth the wait. People always say, was it worth the wait? And I'm like, yes, it was worth the wait. And it says like good things come for those who wait on the Lord. But we live in such a microwave society where we want it now. We were just talking about like even on Instagram, it's a 15-second story and we have to say wait for it. It's 15 seconds. Like, oh my goodness, our attention span is so small. And so we get in this, oh my God, I feel like I've been waiting for so long. I think it's so important not to settle inside of your loneliness. Like I would rather be happy alone than miserable inside of a relationship.
Yeah.
Marriage should be a good decision. If you're seeing like a bunch of red flags, pay attention. And I'll share something personal. Like there was a moment when I was in a relationship and I had to pray a very, very vulnerable and scary prayer where I asked God, like, God, let me see this man through your eyes so that I'm not blinded by romance and I'm not blinded by my feelings, because feelings can be so blinding. God, I want to see this man for if he is my husband or not, and if he is not my husband, then I don't want to waste his time or mine, because I don't want to be walking around with someone else's husband. We always think it's like the worst thing ever. Like God said no. God told me he wasn't my husband, so a couple days later I had to break up with him, and at the time it felt like the worst thing possible. I remember just bawling my eyes out to the point of that heaving cry, like you have nothing left in you. And I look back at it and I'm like, that's the best thing that ever happened. Like, if that worst thing never happened, then I would never have experienced the best thing, which is Chad. You know, and so God, when God just sprinkles his little magic on your worst moments, he can change it into your best moments. So if you're out there and you're going through a breakup, like I hope this gives you hope. The right one's out there, and there's purpose in the pain. There's sometimes, Chad and I've even talked about missing those moments of desperation because we felt God so close.
Don't accept good when great is just around the corner. I think that the enemy will try to throw something good that looks great. He might be this great guy and he seems like to have a lot of good things going for him, but he doesn't love Jesus. Well, you have to ask yourself, is that good or is that great? And it's very dependent on each person. Like imagine this timeline, like this is your life, like this is your life from here to there. Don't also forget that like in this life, you're also in God's story. We often try to ask like, God, where are you on my story? Why haven't you showed up in my singleness? But also don't forget, you're in God's story. There's somebody that God wants to unite you with to not only help you, but also to help heaven. Your partnership should be kingdom advancement.
100%. I feel like we could talk for hours on this topic. So if you have any more questions about singleness, please leave them in the comments below. Love reading your comments. Feel free to DM either one of us on Instagram. We can answer your questions there too. We are open to all questions, and we're just thankful that you watched this video. So make sure you like and subscribe and follow and turn on the notifications and all those good things so that you can stay up to date on this series. We really hope it encouraged you. I know we had a blast just even talking about it. Love you guys. Bye.